You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.
Well, you ready? It seems like you are. So, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. Welcome to Hip and Humble Podcast. I'm Aram.
And I'm Kim.
And
we are going to be talking about sewing machines.
yes.
Yay. I'm a seamstress, so that's what I like. I like sewing machines. I like pretty much anything vintage, antique that is related to sewing. So, the very first sewing machine was actually made in France,
Really?
1830s, by a tailor who has a really long name. And I will butcher it because I don't speak French.
Before we get into that really long name, I just wanted to say that our little bio here, our podcast is we just wanted to welcome you. We talk about all things antiques and collectibles. We also want to thank our sponsor, Hip and Humble Antiques, LLC. We have 3 locations, 2 in Virginia, 1 being in Fredericksburg, Virginia at Oldies But Goodies, Antiques and Collectibles.
In downtown?
In downtown Fredericksburg. And the second being in Stafford, at a place called Boswell's Corner Antiques. The third location is in Oklahoma. It is in Bethany at a place called Rink Gallery. All right, and we will update. And just for reference, guys, it's July 23rd.
July 23rd.
July 23rd. So you guys listening tonight, this is almost like a live show because we're going to post it right after we're done.
Woohoo!
And if you guys aren't all into driving and you want to stay safe, especially now, we also have our Etsy store, which is Hip and Humble Antiques. When you have time, please go check us out. If we don't have something that tickles your fancy at the moment, I promise we will soon.
We will soon.
All
And
right.
if you have certain things you would like for us to look for, feel free to post that.
Yep. So our Instagram is hipn.humble. That's HIPN humble. So if you follow our Instagram, you can comment on any one of our daily posts, and tell us what you'd like for us to look for in our antique scoutings, and we will most certainly accommodate you.
Absolutely.
All right. So anyways, back to our topic for today, which is sewing machines.
Sewing machines. So the first one was created in 1830 by Bartholomew Tinemonier.
Oh dear, that is a
Yeah,
mouthful.
it's a really hard name.
That
I'm
is a
not
mouthful.
French. I don't speak French, so I apologize to anybody out there that speaks French, and they're probably laughing at me going, oh my goodness. Anyway, this fella made one. Basically, it was a hooked and barbed machine.
What does that mean?
It made a chain stitch, so just a running straight stitch. But he made the machine, and it was put in production to create the French Army's uniforms. So machines really kind of up a little bit.
Well, I would imagine that makes sense. So there's so many things that were innovated and, I guess, perfected to be used in times of war.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Well, and the sewing machine was just a huge integral part of people's daily lives.
Right.
So the times and everything else were so different that you had to make all your clothes. You made your bed sheets, you made your curtains, you made your rugs. pretty much anything in your home you had to make. So if you didn't have a sewing machine, you did it by hand. And by hand takes a really long time. So the invention of a sewing machine really sped up the production of home goods that were not sold in stores that you had to buy or had to produce yourself.
Like you were saying that Frenchman, he invented the sewing machine?
Yeah. It was the first mechanical sewing machine.
The first mechanical. The person who actually invented the sewing machine, he was Elias Howe. He had been interested in machinery since childhood. He was one of those tinkerers, and he learned the machinist trade and worked in a cotton machinery factory.
Yeah, and that was a big, wonderful thing to put together were cotton gins and the sewing machine.
Right, and they did that, of course, during the Industrial Revolution. Mm-hmm. The official date for the invention of the sewing machine was actually 1846.
Yep.
Yeah, the sewing machine, it was a huge impact on the textile industry, obviously. And it was really impactful on women.
Yeah. Absolutely. It made their, I guess you'd call it a chore. Or it was a way of life. You made the clothes, you made, your sheets, your bed coverings, your quilts, your curtains.
Your drapes, everything.
Everything.
Well, it was funny. Obviously, for our Hip and Humble Antiques LLC, we do all of our refurbishing, reupholstering, things like that in-house. And we have two beautiful chairs that are sitting de-upholstered in my garage. They've been sitting there for a little while. And Mom had talked to my wife, and she said, "Well, why don't you just go in there and upholster them?" And she goes, "My wife she just hasn't taken the time to learn that skill yet, and she
no time like the present."
Yeah, and but she just not as she just, like I said, hasn't taken the time to learn that skill yet, so she doesn't know how to do it. So in her mind, she was like, "What? There's no way I could do that." She was dumbfounded.
Well, you learn things because you have to learn things. At times we couldn't afford a lot of furniture, so I would pick up furniture wherever I could pick it up, and then I would get fabric and reupholster it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic.
See, reupholstering. When we were growing up, I think, we always heard your sewing machine all the time because it was always going. You made us clothes, you made us.
Well, that was one of the fun things with you boys was they always had their own little flair dressing. Mm-hmm. But when we went in public, we have to dress, normal. I made all the pajamas. They would go to the fabric store and they would pick out the craziest whatever fabric that they could possibly find. That was their pajamas.
There was one, it was
the polar bears.
There was a skateboard one. There was a Power Ranger one.
One with hot dogs and hamburgers.
One with hot dogs and hamburgers. There had all these crazy patterns. I remember going to Joann's and Michael's and all that was so fun. Going to Hobby Lobby.
Yep.
That was an event.
A big thing.
That was an event.
That was a big deal to do all that. And actually, I made like your jeans and stuff. I didn't make those.
No.
But I don't know if any of y'all have little boys, but little boys come with holes in their knees. It's just the way it is. So, again, when you got 3 little boys, you end up cutting those jeans off, and now you have jean shorts, which I'm sure now they're all like, "Oh, I can't believe you put me in jean shorts." Well, yeah, believe it.
Yeah, we were ahead of the fashion curve with the jorts.
But one of the greatest things, I guess, that I did, or not really greatest, but one of the best things I did was I kept all the bottoms of those jeans and all the scraps from all the flannel pajamas and stuff that I made, and I made a quilt out of them.
That's right.
And it is the heaviest quilt.
Warmest quilt you've ever been
on. And even my husband, they all will fight over that quilt to go a camping. I mean, it's
Well,
I think it's indestructible.
We've taken, so we do, my dad and brothers and I, we do this thing called Frontiersman Camping Fellowship. It's period camping is what we say. So everyone that's involved, they all dress in what we call garb, and it's garb.
You pick a character pre-Civil War.
Correct.
And then
a frontiersman
character. And then you have to research your character, what they wore, what they ate, how they lived.
Right.
And then you try to mimic that.
Right. And you hand make all of your clothes and your bags.
Which translates into I'm hand making all the clothes.
Or you barter and trade for it because other people make it.
Which I gotta say, it's just, I mean, everybody out there that in that time period obviously is dead.
Right.
However, if you try to follow a pattern from, let's just say, the 1800s, 1700s, I don't understand. They have like all this extra fabric that goes in their clothes.
Well, it's because it's cold.
Well, but even in the summer, I'm like, there is like tons of extra fabric.
Well,
like,
that's the biggest.
Was so hard to get a hold. If fabric was hard to get a hold of, it seems to me you would try to economize in your pattern making, and not have like all these little. Well, and it's not even the cold, but it's like different ways you would put in a zipper, or which they didn't have zippers, but put in buttons that will have like 2 or 3 facings on that, where one facing would be plenty.
Well, it's not even just the cold, but it's also I mean, you're constantly exposed to the elements.
I know.
You know what I mean? So you want fabric and things to protection and covering.
Yeah, but it's more how they put them together. Mm-hmm. So, why did we have to have an extra yard or 8 inches of puffiness in this sleeve? It's like, okay.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Or, I mean, but it's even just like how you would like put the buttons on there and the different interfacings and stuff. And I'm like, there's just no reason for a lot of this.
Well, I mean, and this is speculation, pure speculation, but coming from England and the fashion and the, that would have been the 1800s, so the 15th and 16th century, all the fashion from England back then, they all had that huge, poofy thing. So I would imagine that a lot of that styling came down from those.
It did, but as far as practical people, like...
Well, as far as practicality,
frontier people, they're not really all that concerned with fashion. No.
But I think whether they were concerned with fashion or not, that still influenced how they saw clothing. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well,
because regardless of whether you are into it with fashion or you are conscious of fashion, people emanate what they see. And if you've seen that for the past 300 years, then that's what you're going to think clothes look like. Right. And you're not going to innovate to make clothes look a different way.
Well, I'm not even talking about how they look. It's just strictly, I guess you would have to sew a lot to kind of understand, but there's a lot of extra material that they put into their clothes that are completely unnecessary. As far, I mean, even like the waistbands and stuff might be linked over 2 or 3 times. It doesn't, I mean, their pants look identical to pants that I can buy off the market today.
Right.
But the pants that I buy off the market today don't use all that extra fabric.
Right.
So.
And they use some pretty interesting stitching in a lot of the, I would say, commercial clothing or textiles.
Today?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like embroidery and all that kind of stuff. Sure.
Yeah. Well, it's going back to Elias Howe. So the Frenchman that you were talking about, you said he made he used the lock stitch, I believe.
It was a hook and bar.
Hook and bar. Okay. Well, Elias Howe. Barb. Yeah. With his invention, with his sewing machine, he actually used the lock stitch instead of the chain stitch, and that was what set his apart, and that's what made his so much more accessible for commercial use.
Sure.
Yeah, it had an automatic feed and a shuttle operating beneath the cloth to form the lock stitch, which is a needle with the eye at the point. Obviously, you know what a lock stitch is. Better than I do, for sure.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Probably do.
Yeah. Industrial sewing machines, actually, they were a turning point in history for the industrial age. They changed the way the clothing was made, but they also changed the speed in which clothing was made.
Oh, yeah.
The industrial sewing machines changed the way the entire clothing industry operated. Obviously, because it increased the speed of production, they had more clothes available. It was cheaper and easier to make.
Well, just back to the embroidery for a second. In 1804, the first sewing machine was built by the Englishmen Thomas Stone and James Henderson. And a machine for embroidery was constructed by John Duncan in Scotland. So, they had to get the Scottish to actually figure out how to make the sewing machine and the embroidery machine work.
That's pretty funny.
They just, I think came up with the idea maybe, but...
Yeah. Well, they said, I found it interesting. A lot of different countries, they helped develop the sewing machine, but the first patent for an industrial sewing machine was in 1790 by Thomas Saint in England.
But I'm pretty sure he got the idea from a Scotsman, so...
Oh, well, of course. Yeah. Well, the English have taken a lot from the Scots, let's be honest.
That's true. I'm a Scot. So.
Yeah.
Which I guess you are too, since you're my kid. But
that would make sense, wouldn't it? Now,
but no, sewing machines really did, kind of revolutionize. Well, it's like everything in that industrial age. They created a machine that made everything go faster, more uniform.
Right.
Everything, had I wouldn't really say a better way, but a faster way.
More innovative.
Innovative, but also it kind of probably brought in a lot of women, particularly, and it's primarily women that were doing the sewing. A lot of time, if you've done a lot of hand sewing or you've done a lot of that for 50 years, your hands are going to have a lot of arthritis in them.
Yeah.
So a lot of physical problems that won't allow you to make clothing, do a lot of hand work. So the machines, I think, really were probably a godsend for a lot of them.
Absolutely.
If you could afford it.
Well, yeah.
That's
even at the industrial level, that was an entire game changer because before then everything was being sewn by hand, even in the factories.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that was a very prized possession if you had a sewing machine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that was the one thing my great-grandmother gave my grandmother when she got married was her sewing machine, and that was huge.
Yeah.
That was, equivalent to somebody buying you a house or something. It really was.
That's incredible.
And I have hers, and it's one of my most cherished.
Like gifting someone a computer in the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, but it's one of my most cherished items that I have. Because it has such a nice family history, but there's a lot of stuff out there. A lot of interesting things that go with the sewing machines too. You kind of go in with the sewing machines, but then you've also got all your thimbles and a whole lot of other tools that were used in sewing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I found it interesting too. So in our last episode, we were talking about the invention of the cash register, or the incorruptible cashier, as it was known.
Yep.
And one of the things that we had talked about was the fact that the cash register, whenever it was first employed in different establishments, it was a central piece. It was very embellished. There were lots of decorations and so on the actual cash registers, and it was the same with sewing machines. At least not necessarily at the commercial level, but at the consumer level, sewing machines. The oldest sewing machine company actually is Bernina.
My favorite.
Mm-hmm. And coincidentally, my mom's favorite.
I have a Bernina, and I love my Bernina.
That company it's been family owned since 1893.
Mm-hmm.
And
I will say, if any machine that you get is probably going to be a great machine.
Mm-hmm.
As far as brands go. I've had a brother, I've had a singer, I do love the Bernina. It's a workhorse. I have an older Bernina. It's almost 20 years old. And, I had it cleaned. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it is a great workhorse machine. But that's not to say that a Viking isn't, or a Janome, or any of the other brands out there, I'm sure, are just as good.
Bernina, Elna, brother Husqvarna, which I didn't know Husqvarna made sewing machines, but that's cool. Husqvarna is also an engine company. Well, they make dirt bikes and snowmobiles.
My Serger over there it's a Husqvarna. It was a Viking White.
Oh, wow.
So, and that one actually, how old are you now? 28?
I'm 27.
Almost 27. You're 27. So, yeah, I've had it for, I guess, probably 27 years.
There you go.
I was trying to think. I think you might have been 1 or 2 whenever I got it. But I've had a long time. But it's a great machine. It is a wonderful machine.
Wow. I mean, it's lasted this long for sure.
Aaron made tacos for dinner.
I did make tacos. And so in my house now, I make things with onions and bell peppers and
I have them in the freezer.
Garlic and everything, every meal because I like to eat vegetables.
Well, I do too.
I know you do, and
you see who I live with.
I know. My mother and I in this house are pretty much the only ones that will eat vegetables.
Yeah.
With the exception of now my now wife, who will also eat vegetables with us.
Without griping. Having to show me that, oh, look, I'm eating a vegetable.
But
okay.
he's allergic.
Yeah. Okay.
That's our favorite. I do believe he has legitimate allergies to some things, but every single vegetable?
Yeah, he's not.
I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
No.
We're referring, of course, to the patriarch.
Yeah.
My dad.
Yeah.
No, he's a good guy. He just has very, very simple tastes. There was one time he told me, he said, I would eat the same thing every single day.
And he would.
He would. He
really would.
He has no need for variety in his diet.
It's really scary.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, there's a whole lot of other sewing machine or sewing related items out there, and I love finding them. I found at one antique mall, I found this little tiny iron. I mean, it's like about an inch long, and it was what do you call that? Promotional piece that they gave out, but it's actually a tape measure. So you pull the little tape measure out of the iron and measure whatever, and it has a little crank on it. You'd wind the little tape measure back up.
Cute.
Love that thing.
Oh, I remember that.
That's what my husband got me for Christmas. That's a big noise.
Yeah. And, sorry not to cut you off, but on that note, we're going to take a moment here. We're going to thank our sponsors again. Hip and Humble Antiques LLC. Again, we got 3 locations, 2 in Virginia, 1 in Oklahoma. And also, if you want to find out more information on our physical locations or our Etsy store, please follow our Instagram, at hipin.humble. That's HIPN _humble at Instagram.com. Stay hip and stay humble. Thanks. And also, before we get back into our sewing machine history, we wanted to start introducing this new segment that we would like to call our interesting or unique find of the week.
Weird stuff.
All right.
Absolutely.
So the weird thing for this week was
it's a breast pump. It is a breast pump. Now, hopefully all of you guys know what a bicycle horn looks like. It has a little horn that comes out with the ball on the end.
It's like it looks like the horns that clowns hold and blow.
But it's glass, and it kind of has that horn shape, but there's like an extra little bowl down at the bottom of it.
To be honest, when I first saw the thing, I thought it was a horn.
Okay, this was what was funny is I found this thing and I texted the picture to all my kids, not my husband, but all my kids. And I said, okay, what is it? Tell me, give me your best guess.
Didn't I say breast pump at some point?
No.
Oh, okay.
Dad told Kale, and Kale said breast pump.
Oh.
So he cheated.
Kale cheated.
Yeah. But
not surprising.
Oh, yeah. But it was hilarious. I was trying to think. I think it was Catherine. It might have been Catherine. That, she thought it was for a baby. So, like it might, like, suck the snot or something out of their noses. And
like
a
snot
like,
sucker. nose.
all of everything out. And she thought about it been something for constipation. So you'd put it on their little rear ends and
just suck it right out of it.
Right out. That was the funniest one.
Oh, goodness.
So,
getting a little explicit here. Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah. But it was hilarious. But Kale eventually, my husband looked at it and was like, oh, I think that's a breast pump. And I'm like, cheating. Cheating is what you are. But that is what it was. So
yeah,
if you look it up, look up vintage breast pumps and you will find a picture of this. It's clear glass and it's got a red bulb on the end of it. And you would just squeeze that bulb and these particular one that I got was actually used up until the late 1970s. Mm-hmm. So it's still not that old.
Yeah.
Not 1800s old or anything. But they quit using it because the breast milk would get in that little red ball thing and there's a lot of bacteria and, a lot of problems.
That makes sense. Well, also it's glass, I feel like.
Well, the glass is good and I'd prefer glass. I prefer glass over plastic any day of the week.
Yeah.
Because I can sterilize glass.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I guess you could burn it.
Yeah. I mean, I can put it in a pot of boiling water for 10 minutes and
yeah, then you're good to go. Although I don't think I'd put it in a boiling pot of water and then put it directly on your nipples.
Well, no, Aram. No, Dean. But the rubber part of it is where the bacteria and stuff would grow in
right.
that. And then probably also there's like a kind of a little, I don't know, hole, not a hole, but a little catcher kind of thing in the bottom of it. So if you don't get that cleaned out real well, then they would have a lot of bacteria and stuff. So obviously we got better ways of doing it nowadays. And
well, yeah, it sounds like people just didn't want to clean it well.
Well, they may not. I don't know. People busy. I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? Not in charge of that. So
yeah.
My kids never. They all just nursed. It was just easier.
But yeah, that was a pretty interesting, weird find.
It was a weird find. Definitely a weird one.
Mm-hmm. So
absolutely. And
guys, we'll definitely post a picture of our weird find of the week in our episode posts moving forward. So be looking out
you
for
could
those.
Probably put that on Instagram.
That's what I meant.
Oh. I don't know this stuff. Sorry. I don't know all of it. Aram knows all the computer stuff. I don't know all of it. I don't even try.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just telling them I don't try.
Yeah, well.
I already had to do computer stuff. I'm good to go now.
All right. Anyway, so back to sewing machines.
Back to sewing machines.
All right.
Sewing machines. And they also, I have a little tiny collection of little bitty sewing machines.
Yeah, they're precious.
Yeah. I have little salesman samples of sewing machines and just little battery operated ones. I have the one, I think first one my mom got. Hello. Catherine's taking pictures of Aram through the window. Mm-hmm. She's laughing at him.
Yeah, she likes to do that.
Yeah. But I have little bitty ones. So I thought my favorite one is I do have an old Singer sewing machine. And I want to say it's probably, I don't know, maybe 7 inches, from wide maybe. And then it's probably about 6 or 7 inches tall. It's really small.
It's very cute though.
It is. It's really neat. But I've got a couple of those, and then I don't have the other one up there that I got was from Japan, and it comes in a red box, and it's all together, and it has It's also battery operated. I think they're really children's toys, or what they were, or their salesman samples is what the Singer one was. Mm-hmm. But the other ones were all, for little girls.
And for reference, so obviously most people know that there were door-to-door salesmen for a considerable period of the, I guess, the 20th century, and there still are door-to-door salesmen, but they're very, very much infrequent. But they were very prevalent back then. And back then, they
didn't have shops.
Yeah, they didn't have like big department stores like Sears and Roebuck and Dillard's, and they just didn't have the shops that they did. So when people were buying
catalogs,
yeah, they had catalogs, or when people were buying appliances and things like that, they would rely on a lot of times door-to-door salesmen. So it was a very big industry, and whenever the door-to-door salesman would come by, they obviously didn't have they wouldn't just lug around an appliance with them everywhere they went, so they would bring these very small samples, and they were basically just miniature versions of whatever appliance that they were selling.
Well, because you got to remember, these sewing machines are cast iron, so they're not light at all.
Oh, no, not at all.
I mean, the new sewing machines nowadays are not light either. Yeah, that's what I have.
No, this is, so
I think.
When we went to, my wife and I, we went to California this last week, when we went to Petaluma to look at a lot of the different antique shops out there, and we found one of these smaller sewing machines, and it was called a Sew Master. And
I don't know. I don't know where it went. It's probably down here somewhere. But it's in a little red box sewing machine.
Yeah, but it looks like it's a hand spinning sewing machine, but it's a miniature one, about the same dimensions that Mom was talking about for her salesman sample Singer.
Mm-hmm. So, but I love them. I think they're really cute. So when I find them and they're around my price range, which is as close to zero as possible, then I pick them up.
Yeah.
And I only have 4 of them, so obviously my price range doesn't hit very often.
No, they're pretty rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one that we saw actually was selling. I think they were selling it for about $1.65.
Wow.
Yeah, $165 for that.
That's out in California, though. They're very expensive out there.
It was a very different price range.
Aaron had a little bit of sticker shock.
It was a little bit of sticker shock out there.
Little bit.
Yeah, the only way I could figure is there's a considerable amount of money in that state, and they have the clientele that'll come up there and spend it.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess.
But so the history of sewing, actually, I found an article on Contrato.com. It's a blog post by one of their writers, Stephanie. She was talking about the history of sewing and titled it a 20,000-year-old art form, because, as he said, it was just a way of life. The history of the sewing machine wouldn't exist without the artistry of hand sewing. People started sewing by hand some 20,000 years ago. The first needles were made from bones or animal horns, and thread made from animal sinew. Or our inventive instinct explains the natural progression to want to improve sewing techniques and make it less laborious. And that's when the Industrial Revolution came about in the 18th century Europe, and the need to decrease manual sewing became paramount, because around that same time, obviously, in some of our previous episodes, we had talked about Victorian era furniture and how the Industrial Revolution shaped that industry. Well, that industry shape came before the textile industry, so a lot of the other industries were actually playing catch up, including the textile industry. So the need to invent a quicker way to make things in the textile industry was quite prevalent at that time.
Oh, yeah. Well, sewing's always been a part of humanity.
Yeah.
So whether you are sewing fig leaves together somewhere, or, a bunch of animal skins up in the wilds of Alaska, you gotta have some physical protection.
The history of sewing machines, too, and along with the history of a lot of things during the Industrial Revolution, was very tumultuous. It was there was a lot of adversity and also trial and error with different sewing machines. As we talked about earlier, the first patent for a commercial sewing machine was patented in 1790, but it wasn't until about 1830 that they had a successful and well-working sewing machine. And that was one of the first successful patents. And after that successful patent, Bartholomew Timonier, who was the gentleman who patented it.
That would be the French guy.
Yep. Yeah, the French tailors at the time, they were not happy with his invention because he had created it obviously to fill the need for the French army. But all the other tailors in France at the time were very much not happy because it was taking away business from them, basically.
Oh, yeah.
So they actually, they burnt down his factory while he was still inside.
There's a whole lot of people that burn down a lot of factories from inventors.
It seems like that is the natural response to things. If you don't like something, burn it down.
Yep, and that just really doesn't work out well.
It just doesn't, because everyone's got insurance. Even back in the 1830s, they had insurance, and you just build it right back up and start producing again. I mean, obviously,
of course, insurance only goes so far.
Yeah. Well, and obviously,
and they never replace for full value.
No.
Never, ever.
No. Well, and obviously, like I was saying, or what I was trying to say is, if you have a smaller business, then a fire could definitely ruin you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad had a fire. He had a wood mulch,
wood
shavings plant, and lightning struck, and it was a fire. And he did rebuild all of it, but boy, it took years just for the insurance stuff to come through.
Yeah, that was a hard fought battle too.
It was.
And there was times where we had told him I mean, he had grounds to file suit and things like that, but he never did.
No. Well, there's not a lot. That was
just his way.
Yeah. Yeah. But boy, the insurance does not, as I'm sure every person out there in the world that's ever had to deal with insurance, I mean, car wreck or whatever, they know, just doesn't pay very well.
No, most definitely not.
But God help you if you don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the biggest thing about insurance. I mean, with car insurance is you got to prove intent, you got to prove A, B, C, and D, and then, then maybe they'll send you the check, and then after they do send you the check, you never get, like we were saying earlier, you never get full value for the car, or you never get, you always have to pay a premium for repairs and things like that. It's
a mess.
It's just a mess.
Yep. It really is.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to change it just by talking about it like this today.
Nope. Not gonna change.
It will change someday, but...
Hopefully. But, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I have faith.
Okay. Well, good. Good. But, yeah. I enjoy my sewing machine. I enjoy the one that I have, but there's a ton more just other sewing related antiques that are just really kind of fun to see and fun to run across. But used to, and you'll find if you go out and kind of stumble upon, there's tons of those. What we would do is a travel sewing kit, but there's tons and tons of them out there because people always took needle and thread with them everywhere they went.
Right.
Because your hem's going to come out or something's going to go wrong, buttons flying off, whatever, and you got to have some way to fix it.
It's a good idea to have a sewing machine still.
A
sewing kit still.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I always have one, some small one somewhere. So I'm actually, that one of the bags that I just designed is, it's because I do a lot of handwork still.
Right.
So I can put whatever project that I'm working on this little bag, but a little smaller version of that would be good to throw in the bottom of a suitcase for just in case. You never know. That's not always fun to get caught out and wherever you're at and
lose a button. Yeah, losing a button is far more common of an issue than I had first thought in my life.
Yeah, well, it is. It definitely is.
Yeah, well, we are about out of time.
Are we?
We're getting there, yeah.
Wow.
Wow. We get to talking and that,
It's true.
you know?
It's true.
Get to talking and
Well,
we just don't stop.
Well, we can talk sewing a lot.
I know.
I can do a whole lot with that.
Yeah, I know you can. Yeah, like I said, I'm just seamstress. Best one I know about.
Yep. Well, I've made quilts for forever and sewed and been designing little bags and stuff lately. So
Yeah,
that's
they're
fun.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And eventually we will be putting those in the shop.
Well, I have a couple. Well, I put some in the Oklahoma shop. I think I've got one there, but it's been there for a while now, which I've been kind of surprised because every other one I put out there is usually gone by the end of the day. So, and really the ones that I put out there are just plain bags, but I got them, I made them because I was tired of going to the grocery store and you get those cheap ones that, has whatever the store logo's name on it.
Yeah, right.
You can use it twice and then it's busted, it's broke, something falls through, whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is ridiculous. So I'm just going to get some dedicated bags and these are my grocery bags. And so I had made one and my mom's like, well, let's just stick it out there and see what happens. So we stuck it out there and actually I didn't even stick it out there. We were out there putting merchandise in the booth and there was a lady that walked by and picked it out of the bucket and was just like, how much is this? I'm like, oh, okay. So, she kind of brought the first one because I, had stuff taking it out to the booth in it.
Right.
So I was like, well, yeah, I'll sell it to you.
Yeah, mine as well.
But, that's what I liked them for was, and they're great catch-all. I've got one upstairs that it's nice. I can throw all the stuff that won't fit in my suitcase or if I'm on a road trip or whatever, I can just throw all my little things in that and then have it in the car with me. So all my chargers or, just all that little stuff that you don't necessarily want in the suitcase, but you don't want it to get lost.
You don't want it to be rattling around the car.
Right. I'm always a big person on fitting. I love bags, period. But
I just like things organized. I like things in their little place and everything.
Yeah, I do. I like that. But it's like if it's in a bag, it's less likely to get lost.
Well, the other thing too is if I don't see it, it's not there. So
that's true.
If I don't see it, it's put away. It's not there. I'm good. I'm happy. Because if I got too many things, I think it's that object permanence. If I have too many things in my field of vision, then I'm focusing on too many things.
Oh, I got way too many things in my fields of vision.
I know.
Yeah.
We're actively working to diminish that.
I know. We're doing pretty good.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah. It's working on it. Working on it.
Well,
if I get to listen, if I, get my stomach healed up from this appendectomy, then I can lift things again. That would be really helpful.
Well, we don't need to rush that though.
Apparently my body's not going to rush that.
Yeah, it's not going to.
The older you get, the slower the healing goes. Just FYI.
Well, folks, thank you so much for listening in to us and hearing us talk about things that we're passionate and excited about and just spending some time with us.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It has been.
I enjoy that. I enjoy this time. It's like one of my favorite times of the week because Aram and his wife come over and we have dinner and then Aram and I get to have our little time down here with you guys and it's fun. I enjoy it. I hope you guys are liking it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you need to, shoot us some comments. Tell us what you want us to talk about or research or.
Yeah. We're always ready to talk about whatever you guys want to hear. And
absolutely.
I love putting the time into the research, especially when it comes to any kind of history. I love finding those little gems about these kinds of things and how they've influenced where we're at and where we're going. I'm a big believer in understanding history to translate the present.
Oh, very good. Very nice.
Thank you.
You can put that on a t-shirt.
I should.
Yeah.
Maybe we will.
You never know.
We might sell some t-shirts. I don't know. But anyways, thanks again. Stay hip.
And humble.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Cece Schatz, and I want to welcome you to Going Solo Next Step. We are an innovative, transformational site with a personal touch, as we are an online, interactive, social website connecting other like-minded individuals who are adjusting to their new life of being single. Going Solo Next Step will connect and help you deal with issues such as relationship loss, divorce recovery, relationship building, transition into dating, single parenting, spiritual connection, inspirational plus personal growth, sparking your career and understanding your life path, wants, and goals. As you begin relationship building, you will enjoy Going Solo Next Step social activities and forums designed to connect you and other like-minded individuals to make great everlasting friends. Together, we will all have fun in growing number of social groups and gatherings, both in your location and online. This and so much more is in store for you. You can join me on www.goingsolonextstep.com. I'm looking forward to being with you right there on Going Solo Next Step. See you there.
You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio Channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.